Well, it says we're live. Hello, hello. It's Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock here in Costa Rica, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London and most of Europe, 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in Australia. And I think it's 10:30 in the morning on Wednesday in New Zealand. I think I've got that right now. And it's Facebook Live. Hello, everyone. And it's the first of the month. And so it's just a joy that Michelle Ross joins us today, our Director of Clinical Services. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Dr. Tom. So happy to be here. I love this once a month powwow with you.
Yes, yes.
Really fun.
And this is all about your questions and answers. And so you can start putting your questions in the chat and we'll pull them up, and I'm going to bring up on my phone here as soon as I can the Facebook Live today. It takes me a minute to find that, but in the meantime, Michelle, do we have a first question left over to begin with?
We do. So because we're having the 20% off all supplements, all private label supplements on the website through midnight tonight Pacific time, and that code is all capital letters Memorial, short for Memorial Day. I often get asked, how is Wheat Rescue or how is E3 Advanced Plus different from other gluten digesting supplements?
Right. That's a really good question. And the first thing to understand when we're dealing with enzymes to help with any inadvertent exposures to wheat. I have to turn the volume down now. I found it here on Facebook, so I'll get to it, say hello to people. The first thing to understand is that how often is it a problem and why would we even be talking about enzymes? In the journal Gastroenterology 2 years ago, a study was published from Columbia University, Dr. Peter Green and his team there. They recruited 804 people. They gave them testing equipment and they sent them out into the communities to go to gluten-free restaurants. And they each ordered 7 different items on gluten-free restaurant. So that's 5,624 different gluten-free foods off of gluten-free menus. And they'd place the order and the waiter or waitress would walk away. They'd open their briefcase, take out the testing equipment, put it on the table. And when the waiter or waitress came with the food, they'd take the food and immediately test it. And what did they find? 34% of everything on a gluten-free menu is not gluten-free. 34%. 51%, 51.9, so 52% of gluten-free pizza is not gluten-free, more than half the time. And 54% of gluten-free pasta is not gluten-free. And it's inadvertent exposure, either in the grains or the meal that was being produced or in the cooking equipment. The chef that stirs the pot for pasta then uses the same wooden spoon to stir the pot for gluten-free pasta. And that's all it takes, because we've learned, Dr. Detlef Schupan at Harvard published the study that said one of the components of wheat is called amylase trypsin inhibitors. Remember, there are many different components in wheat that our immune systems fight, not just gluten. But the amylase trypsin inhibitors in wheat will activate the receptors in our gut to protect us, the sentries standing guard just inside the stomach, in nanomolar amounts, which means a billionth of a gram. A billionth of a gram is enough to activate intestinal permeability, the leaky gut, and inflammation in the gut. So what that information tells us is that it's almost impossible to not be exposed to wheat out in the world. Almost impossible. You're trying your best. You go to a gluten-free restaurant or a gluten-free bakery and you order from the gluten-free menu, but still more than half the time with pizza and pasta and 34% of the time with everything on the menu, it's not gluten-free. So what's the takeaway? Anytime you eat anything that you're not absolutely certain there's no way to have any wheat in a salad. The salad dressing maybe, but not in the vegetables. So anytime you're eating anything that you say, well, I don't know, maybe, maybe not, you take a digestive enzyme. So now on the topic of digestive enzymes, what's critically important is that any inadvertent exposures to wheat get digested while still in the stomach. Because as soon as they come out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, that's where the sentries are standing guard to protect us from any bugs that got through the stomach, and the acid in the stomach didn't kill a bug. So the sentry is called toll-like receptor 4, geek term, but toll-like receptor 4. And toll-like receptor 4 activates intestinal permeability to get to open up the tight junctions, and water comes out to wash away whatever the bug was. And it activates NF-kappa B, the major amplifier of inflammation in the body. So that sentry is standing guard just in the first part of the small intestine. And as Dr. Fasano tells us, gluten is misinterpreted as a harmful component of a microorganism. So anything that comes out of the stomach, any gluten, any wheat proteins that come out of the stomach activate toll-like receptor 4 in nanomolar amounts, a billionth of a gram, creating all that inflammation. What does all of that mean? It means that you have to digest this in the stomach, not in the intestines. And all of the digestive enzymes out there, some of them work, some of them are pretty good. They've got some pretty good science behind them, but they take 3 to 6 hours to work. And food comes out of the stomach within 90 minutes to 2 hours. And so you miss it. So it's certainly, some of these enzymes are helpful, and they'll protect the large intestine from the inflammation from wheat, but they don't protect the small intestine and activating leaky gut. That's why you have to have enzymes that work within 60 minutes. Now, and that's E3 Advanced Plus and Wheat Rescue. And the difference between E3 Advanced Plus and Wheat Rescue, I'm going to bring up a video here to show you, because it's pretty jaw-dropping when you see it, that there's something. Michelle, can you explain what bacteriophages are while I'm bringing it up?
I cannot. So you go for it.
Okay.
I can show. I
Okay.
can show a picture of how E3 pulverizes gluten, though.
Yeah.
And this is on the DRTOMOBRYANGLUTENFREE website. You can click on this, and these are the little peptides. They look so angry. And the E3 and the Wheat Rescue are like scissors, and they can go in and chop it up, because that 33 amino acid chain in gluten that doesn't break down in any human body, we lack the enzymes. If we take E3 or Wheat Rescue, then it can pulverize 97 to 99% of it within the 60 to 90 minutes the food's in the stomach. So this is something I always have in my purse, and I always take if I'm eating out at a restaurant, if I'm eating someplace where I'm not 100% sure that it is gluten-free. So be much outside the home. If I eat grains or any processed food, which isn't often, I'll often take it then too, just to be safe. Sometimes I'll even take it if I want it to break down other, like eggs, or I try to only have eggs once every 4 days or so, but if I have them more often, I may take E3 to just help with that digestion. But
Right.
That's a fun picture. There's a whole booklet, 16-page booklet that really explains it well.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to hear about this bacteria.
Yeah, the
What did you call it?
bacteriophages, right? The bacteriophages. So
Bring it on.
it was Dr. Jeff Bland, my mentor and the godfather of functional medicine, who in an interview that I did with him for our summit that starts next week, the Food and Autoimmunity Summit. And we'll put a link in here to that summit that I'm doing with Dr. Evan Hirsch. And in my interview with Dr. Bland, he said, Tom, if you take a teaspoon of stool, just a teaspoon, there's more bacteria in that teaspoon of stool than all the stars in the known universe. And Dr. Bland doesn't exaggerate. And that's like hard to fathom how much bacteria is in our gut. And we know it's 10 times more cells of bacteria than all the cells in the human body, but that teaspoon of stool visual with the stars really hit me. Then I read a study about 2 months ago that said there's 10 times more viruses than bacteria in the gut. And we think of viruses are bad. No, they're not. Humans are completely dependent on living in harmony with viruses. Viruses aren't bad for you. Bad viruses are bad for you. And so there's a big world of difference. And I have to admit, the first thought that comes to me when I hear the word virus is bad. Oh, it's a bad thing. And I have to re-educate myself. And the technology now is getting so good that we're learning more and more about viruses all the time. One of the things that's just come out in less than the last, I think, 10 years is about bacteriophages. Now, what are bacteriophages? Bacteriophages are viruses that kill bad bacteria. And I'm going to show you a video of what that looks like. So I'm going to share screen here, and we're going to bring up, and first I will show you the picture of what this looks like. That what a virus does is it grabs onto the cell wall of bad bacteria, not good bacteria, just bad bacteria. And it injects its DNA into the bad bacteria, which will kill that bacteria. Now, here's what it looks like. So that's a bad bacteria in blue, and here are the viruses just going after it to protect us. And this is going on 24/7 in our gut, and I think throughout our entire bodies, how these bacteria are just there to help us to get rid of accumulations of bad bacteria. So for me, it's a complete re-education process that viruses aren't bad for you, bad viruses are bad for you, and how dependent we are on good viruses. So why am I telling you all that? Because E3 Advanced Plus contains bacteriophages that go after bad bacteria in your gut. So for those that have any kind of gut symptoms, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, colitis, you're likely to get more benefit from the E3 Advanced Plus because it has bacteriophages in it. Now, both E3 Advanced Plus and Wheat Rescue will destroy any inadvertent exposure to wheat within 60 minutes for E3, and it's 4 minutes for Wheat Rescue. Within 4 minutes in the stomach, it's breaking it down. So Wheat Rescue has, and it's extra enzymes. That's why it's 4 minutes instead of 60. Both are safe because it takes 90 minutes to 2 hours for food to get out of the stomach to get into the small intestine. So they both will digest wheat before it gets into the small intestine, activating toll-like receptor 4 with leaky gut and inflammation as the result. But Wheat Rescue, I also put a little hydrochloric acid in there because some of these enzymes that are really effective, they work better in an acid environment. That's why all of the other enzymes take 3 to 6 hours to work, is that they don't work at all in an acid environment. So we hear of DPP4 and there are some companies that have those enzymes, and they work, but they take 3+ hours to work. They don't work in an acid environment. But we put a little extra hydrochloric acid in Wheat Rescue because so many people have an insufficiency of enough hydrochloric acid. The geek term is hypochlorhydria. You know, they've got low stomach acid and all the digestive problems that can go along with that. So we put a little extra acid in the Wheat Rescue to go along with the extra enzyme is called tolerase. 4 minutes, it's breaking down gluten in the stomach within 4 minutes. And that's the difference. E3 Advanced Plus works within 60 minutes to break down gluten, and it's got the bacteriophages in it. So those that have any type of gut symptoms whatsoever, probably you'll do better with E3 Advanced Plus, probably, but you try it out and there's no reason why you can't do both. And Marzi and I certainly do that. I've got both of them in the glove box of my car, and in her purse, she usually keeps Wheat Rescue. She likes that one more. But we'll use them here at home. We'll intersperse both of them on occasion. Michelle, anything else you want to add to that?
No, that was excellent.
Okay.
Great. So you ready for the next question?
Sure, you bet.
Kim asks, after eliminating gluten and inflammatory foods, what would be the next step for healing leaky gut?
Rebuild the microbiome. Critically important. You have to understand, and doctors don't really get this. And so they recommend, well, let's take some probiotics. That'll build your microbiome. No, it helps. It certainly helps, and that's a component. But to rebuild the microbiome, you have to understand that microbiome, 10 times more bacteria in the gut than all the cells in the body, 10 times more. And the microbiome that's developed over decades of your life is a microbiome that's produced the health results that you've got right now. Remember that 36% of all of the small molecules in the bloodstream, over 1/3 of all the molecules are the metabolites from the bacteria in your gut. That's the geek term for the exhaust of the bacteria in your gut. And those metabolites get into the bloodstream and they go everywhere. And the term we use is modulates, which means has its hands on the steering wheel of where you're going, where your brain's going, how many brain hormones called neurotransmitters you make, in what concentrations and when, your heart rate, how your heart rhythm is, your heart rate rhythm, and your heart rate rhythm's ability to adjust to stress. The microbiome has tremendous influence over all of that. And your kidney function, your liver function, your joint function, the microbiome is affecting, it has its hands on the steering wheel of how your body runs. That's why over 1/3 of everything in the bloodstream is the directions coming from the microbiome in your gut. Now, you've got a microbiome that's developed based on how you've lived your life so far. And if you found out recently in the last year or two and you're gluten-free now, just found out, that means 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you've been eating wheat. And it's had some benefits, but it also has some detriments for you. Or you've had too much sugar and you've fed too much of the wrong kind of bacteria. Some people get yeast infections, which is just an overgrowth, usually as a result of too many carbohydrates, too much sugar. My point is the microbiome you currently have has developed over decades. That doesn't change by buying a bottle of probiotics and taking a probiotic for a month. It's going to help, but you have to rebuild the microbiome. And we did a whole thing on that. Michelle, didn't we do a whole Facebook on rebuilding the microbiome and all the steps in that?
I think so. We've touched on it quite a few times.
Yeah. So it's all there. It's the prebiotics, the probiotics, the root vegetables, the fermented vegetables, the applesauce, the bone broth. I mean, it's all there. And it takes a while to go through all that. But you have to rebuild the microbiome. So kudos for getting the foods out that you've identified are gasoline on the fire for you. Kudos. Now you have to rebuild the microbiome that's developed over the last couple of decades. Michelle, do you want to add to that one?
You nailed it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have to remove infections, right? When you think of the 4 R's, but that's part of remodeling the whole microbiome is just making sure we don't have an overgrowth of these potentially pathogenic bacteria, yeast. And it's rare for me to have somebody come and work with me that doesn't have some level of infection going on in the gut.
Right.
So Michelle is asking about somebody else, and she said their hands turn red and feel hot, and when she puts them above her head, they turn a normal color. Any clue?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So somebody's hands turn red and feel hot, but then when they put them over their head, they turn a normal color. What would cause that?
Yeah. That's You Can Fix Your Brain. We talk about the pyramid, that looking at health, you have to look at any health problem with the concept of a pyramid. Well, a pyramid's got 3 sides. No, it's got 4 sides. There's a base, and the base is your structure. Then there's the biochemistry. That's where everybody focuses. Then there is the emotional or spiritual, and then there's the electromagnetic. So there's 4 sides that you have to look at. What you're describing is a mechanical problem. And so that's the realm of chiropractic, massage, yoga, pillows to sleep with, the curve in your neck. Have you lost the curve in your neck? Is your head out in front of your shoulders like this? When you drive, is your car seat back like this? So I'm exaggerating, but you see taxi drivers, they often drive like this. So if you look at where my head is now, if I stand up, then my head's like this, right? And so you want to check your car seat. Well, this is not going to fix your problem, but this is a baby step in the process. But for everyone, if your car seat is tilted back, tomorrow morning, you bring it forward 1 click. And on the 1st of every month, you bring it forward 1 click again until it's straight. And that, it'll take you 5 months, 6 months, but now you're sitting straight when you drive and you're more alert. Just, if you're sitting here right now, lift your chest up. Imagine you've got 4 helium balloons hooked to the front of your chest, lifting you up. Lift your chest up. Okay, now relax. Which one is more alert, right? So 1 click a month on the 1st of the month, every month. We all need to do that because we got in the habit of leaning back in our cars. But that's a mechanical problem.
Okay, Shaquilos asks, hi, do you know of any alternatives for Flonase or Quercetin or any antihistamines? Also, if I have an allergy to olive leaf, for example, does that contribute to overall immune system overload?
I'll let you start with that one, Michelle.
Okay, so we in functional medicine want to find out why somebody needs an antihistamine. That's always our goal. Our goal is to not, and I've seen this happen a lot, Dr. Tom, in alternative medicine, is we try to match a supplement for a pharmaceutical.
Right.
And that's Band-Aid. It's Band-Aid medicine. And we don't ever want to do Band-Aids. There's a reason why somebody needs Flonase, Quercetin, or antihistamines. And it's so rewarding when I work with people who have had seasonal allergies their whole life and they change their microbiome. They get the gluten and the dairy out. They eliminate processed sugars, and all of a sudden they make it through the next spring or whenever their seasonal allergies rear their ugly head. And they're like, wait, this is the first time in my life I've never had seasonal allergies. So there's some kind of inflammatory response going on in your body. And there's things that we can look at, like total IgE, eosinophils, but it's could be infection, it could be food sensitivity, you name it. There's so many different root causes, but you have to find yours. And I've worked around people with olive leaf sensitivities or certain sensitivities, but that's not my main thing, is to think, oh no, this person can't get well because they can't have olive leaf. It's finding out why the immune system is hyperactive.
Right. Agreed. Critically important. And with histamine reactions, one of the nutrients that does help is quercetin. It's been known for a long time to help, and it's safe. It's a component of a vitamin C complex, not often listed with vitamin C, but it's part of the complex. But taking quercetin can help, but you have to identify the trigger or the cause. 2 things I want to say. First is my staff reminded me there's a 20% discount on everything in the store today because it's Memorial Day. And the code is Memorial, all capital letters, just as a reminder. And somebody asked, can I take Wheat Rescue and E3 together? The answer is yes, of course. No problem with that. I do that on occasion. If I'm doing pasta, gluten-free pasta, I'll do both just to be on the safe side. And I'm looking through the comments, and I'm not seeing people saying where they're from today. And that's important for me. I like to know where you're from. So give us a shout out, please, and tell us where you are. I mean, it's really cool when you see Ottawa and Tampa and San Diego and Newfoundland and Finland and all of that. So give us a shout out so we know. It's a whole nother world now where I like this Facebook Live because I get to see Michelle on the screen. So I'm not just talking to myself. Right? I can't see you guys as opposed to being on stage somewhere. So it makes it a little more human and a little more connection when I know that you're out there and where you're from. So please just tell us, say hi and where you're from. Okay. Michelle,
and I want to share a supplement real quickly since there's a sale right now and 20% is a lot. It adds up. So this is an amazing supplement that has quercetin in it, as well as some other just beautifully
balanced.
Immune. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful, it has boswellia, curcumin, glutamine, lysine. I mean, it's a really well put together supplement. The GS stands for gluten sensitivity, QE. So if you're having inflammation, pain in the body anywhere, this could be a really beneficial supplement.
A great anti-inflammatory supplement. Because some people will say, well, I take curcumin or turmeric for anti-inflammation. Yeah, that's really great. And that's the primary in this product. But vitamin C, quercetin, turns on different genes than curcumin does to reduce inflammation. Or boswellia turns on different genes than curcumin or quercetin does. So the idea here, it's a geek term, it's called pleiotropic, means all roads lead to Rome. There's a bunch of different things. The goal is anti-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. So for a short period of time, I don't think you want to live on GS curcuminase, but for a couple of months when you're highly inflamed and you're starting to address where these things coming from, it's a great product to hose down the fire pretty quickly.
Yeah, but we don't want anyone to need it long term. The goal is use it as a Band-Aid while we're getting the C-reactive protein down or gut inflammation. But I do really like it. And sometimes we cycle things in because something will happen, there'll be stress or something, and some of these things can creep back up. So it's nice to just have it in the medicine cabinet. That's the kind of thing I have in my medicine cabinet.
Right. That's a health cabinet, or
yes.
a healthy medicine cabinet. Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm going to just go by initials of this next name because I don't want to mispronounce it. So HK 74 and having hot flashes. What can be the reason?
Your sympathetic nervous system is being activated. Kind of the fight, flight, or fright mode. It's usually some type of stress that's causing this. It can be an emotional stress, or it can be a structural stress. It can be a spinal problem that can trigger that, especially in a 74-year-old person. Do you also have a history of some mechanical problems like neck pain, back pain, upper back pain, something like that? But I would probably start by looking at mechanical first. And then the next question would be, what about emotional stresses in your life? Do you find that you've got a high level of anxiety right now? Is there something that you're dealing with or something you've buried that you don't want to deal with that's under the surface, but it keeps nagging at you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, excellent. I'm curious to know if they just started at 74 randomly, like how long ago did she stop menstruating? Have these been going on for 24 years? I have lots of questions about that one, but I'd love to see a complete Dutch panel on her as well to see all those hormones and adrenals. Okay, IL, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, asks, does hemp or tapioca cross-react with gluten?
Hemp or tapioca? Not that I'm aware of. Wait. Tapioca is on the gums panel with Cyrex. It's one of the things that's looked for. And I don't recall if there was an association
I think
in the
those are the foods you'd eat a lot of on a gluten-free diet. Let me look at what's tested on array 4, but dairy, instant coffee, which I think instant coffee is just contaminated with gluten in the processing of it, and sesame, I think, are cross-reactive. Corn is cross-reactive. Dairy, those are the usual bad guys. And then there's this whole list of foods, and hemp is on there, sorghum, millet, amaranth, quinoa. These are the foods that probably weren't in your diet. And then when you went gluten-free, you started having a lot of them in your diet. I think yeast can also be cross-reactive. Yeah,
and I think a rule of thumb is anything can cross-react with anything. That's how I look at it. Though I don't recall reading anything about tapioca and gluten, so I can't say yes to that. But I'm always sensitive that anything can cross-react with anything because of your microbiome. It's the microbiome that controls so much of this, how our immune systems are functioning, what we're sensitive to, what we're not, what we think we've been exposed to, what we haven't. For example, you're gluten-free, you're squeaky clean gluten-free, but you still eat dairy, and your wheat antibodies are still elevated. Well, it's because of dairy and a cross-reactivity with dairy. So your immune system makes antibodies to dairy, but it still triggers the production of antibodies to wheat. So can that occur with tapioca? Probably, I don't know for sure, but I would never rule it out. I would say, follow your experience. If you're squeaky clean and stuff, but you have the sense, maybe there's something about this tapioca that's not great for me, then you might want to check that out. And what's that array panel, Michelle, that's the gums? Do you know?
So array 10 has 180 foods, and it has a big panel on gums. Array 4 is cross-reactive foods and foods you would eat a lot of on a gluten-free diet.
It would be array 10. It would be Cyrex array number 10. And that's on our website. You can check that out.
And when we were running more Cyrex array 10s, I printed out all the cross-reactive foods for each of those 180 foods. And I made this big binder and basically used up an entire tree. And I've never taken it off the shelf since, because it can be overwhelming enough to get the sesame out of your life rather than to try to wonder if maybe you're reacting to 16 other potential cross-reactive. So I really like to remind people that there's the big bad guys, right? Gluten, dairy, corn, soy, these highly allergenic foods, sugar. It's not an allergen, but it's a very toxic food, peanuts, things like that. Make sure that you have those off, work on healing the gut, and then often the body can reset and you can add in a lot of those foods that you might have a sensitivity to right now. But it's frustrating when someone's sensitive to broccoli and Brussels sprouts and zucchini and like all these veggies, when we know that we need fiber and vegetables to really heal the microbiome.
Right.
Okay, so Mark says, if you no longer have a gallbladder and take digestive enzymes to help with fat, should the digestive enzyme contain ox bile? Are there certain issues with ox bile? Also, should these be taken right before the meal, during, or after?
Depending on how many you need determines when to take them. But if you're taking, usually if you've had your gallbladder removed, it would be at least 2 of them. But it can be as many as 4 to 6, and you intersperse them throughout the meal. Not before eating, but rather after a few bites. You might start with 1 and then a third of the way through the meal, do another one. If you're only taking one, then I would take it in the middle of the meal. The idea is that you want these enzymes in the middle of the bolus of the food, so they're digesting from the inside coming out. And so I would focus mostly in the middle of a meal, but depending on how many you need, you may take one more towards the beginning and then one more towards the end.
Kudos to you, Mark, that you even know that you should be supporting your body. Gallbladders are not optional organs. Appendix, tonsils, these are not organs that, you know, we should just have removed at birth because they're just excess. They're essential. And many people that have their gallbladders removed have a gluten sensitivity, and the symptoms continue right after they have that precious little organ hacked out. So we have to figure out what's causing the gallbladder to be so disgruntled. But without it, yes, it's really helpful to have ox bile and TEDCA and some of these other really important ingredients to help break down fat. But those can be helpful for people with gallbladders as well, who aren't breaking down fat well.
Oh goodness, yes. Especially, you know, if your pancreas isn't working too well or your gallbladder is not working too well, digestive enzymes can be a godsend for a while you're working on getting those organs functioning better.
Yes. Okay, Gwendolyn, good morning to both of you from New Zealand. Hi, Gwendolyn. About 7 years ago, I had a PICC line for 12 weeks of antibiotics due to a post-op wound infection. I still have some soft tissue swelling where it was inserted and occasionally get a hot wave-like sensation in that spot. Any idea what causes it and how to remedy it?
Yeah. There's residue in the tissue that's still there. You know, we know that when you get a vaccination, and this was published, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. And so it was mostly on vaccinations in children, but even in adults, that they would find the aluminum, which is an adjuvant used in vaccination. They'd find the aluminum at the site of injection 7 years after the injection, 7 years. And usually the vast majority of this gets into circulation and then gets deposited in areas like the brain. And if your body can't get rid of it, it accumulates in the brain a lot. But at the site of injection, they found it 7 years later. So I would focus first on the site of injection, and I would use a castor oil pack. And Dr. Marisol, the Queen of Thrones, has a castor oil pack that's really fabulously designed. And we'll put the link in here for her castor oil packs. She has one for the eyes. Michelle, have you ever tried that one that she has for the eyes?
I haven't. I haven't tried it yet. I need to put it on the list, the to-do list.
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
I'm sorry?
Have you tried it?
No, I haven't. But you know, I was just listening to an interview with her today, actually. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll try that eye thing and put it on for a few weeks and see if I notice a difference. You put it on when you're sleeping, and it is reported to help your sleep quite a bit. And given we've got a 5-month-old, anything I can get that'll help me sleep better, you know, is worth trying.
For sure. Oh, but he's so cute. Okay, so Terry asks, hi, I have a lot of supplements and recently learned I have a corn sensitivity through a corn zoomer. I have the list of all the names of corn-derived ingredients and have had a hard time finding corn-free labeled supplements since FDA doesn't think it's important. Are the trace amounts found in processing, for example, bromelain, going to be a problem? Moderate sensitivity levels, but also have the wheat corn crossovers that overlap epitope. Wheat allergy and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Well, I think there's 200 derivatives of corn in our food supply, so it's almost like gluten in that it's permeated our food system. And so I mean, I just recommended a fiber supplement to somebody, didn't realize it had corn maltodextrin in it. I'm no longer recommending that fiber supplement, but her outbreak, she had a skin outbreak on her legs that came back, that had cleared up after going on that. So it just depends on each person's sensitivity level. I've had people eliminate corn from their diet and heal. And I've had other people that are so extremely sensitive that they have to really be careful that the supplements that they're taking say no corn, and to really be a label reading detective.
You know, one of the good things that we can tell you is that E3 Advanced Plus and Wheat Rescue will break down corn within 60 to 90 minutes. So just like with wheat, I mean, they work on the top 8 allergens. That's why the company that distributes the product for us, they took the same product and they call it Allergenza. And it's because if they say Glutenza, people say, well, I don't have a problem with gluten, I've got a problem with corn. So they call it Allergenza. It's the same thing, the same product. It's good marketing, you know, so that, and people say, oh, well, it's for allergy. Yeah, I've got an allergy to corn. Okay, good. And then they'll take Allergenza. Well, it's the same thing as E3. It's just a marketing for the name. But if you have a corn sensitivity, absolutely, I would have followed the same guidelines that we just talked about earlier for wheat sensitivity with E3 or Wheat Rescue.
And I would retest the wheat zoomer and the corn zoomer 6 months out.
Right.
Because we've retested corn zoomer on these really sensitive people and it's still lit up like a Christmas tree. So that can be your tell. You want to make sure that your gut is healing and that intestinal permeability, that all the gluten markers are now in range and that corn has calmed down. Doesn't mean you can add corn back in, especially with that corn wheat overlap epitope, but it means that all the hard work you're doing is helping your body to heal.
And Michelle, I've got a question on that. For those people on the retest, were they taking E3 or Wheat Rescue with every meal during that time before retesting?
I think they were probably only taking it when they ate out.
Yeah, and because that's how we used to recommend it, not, you know, with every meal where there might be contamination, but, you know, if you're going to have gluten-free pasta or something like that, I was a little lax in my recommendations. And now we understand with the level of contamination that's out there, you just need to protect yourself anytime you go out to eat, anytime you don't have complete control over the food that's going in your mouth, meaning you didn't buy it and prepare it yourself. And so, you know, even the spices don't have gluten in them or have corn in them. If you've got your own spices at home and you buy organic and you check with the company and they're gluten-free and corn-free, great, then you know. But in a restaurant, you don't know. And then you take E3 or Wheat Rescue with every meal like that.
Yes, good point. Ayel said that she saw on the website Saunas from Phage. What's the difference between these and which is the best to detox mold or toxins?
Saunas do not detox mold or toxins. Sauna detoxes the body, and the one on our website is there because it's I don't know that it's still the newest model or brand to come out, but it's my friend Robin Openshaw who created this. And the EMFs are hardly measurable, where the older saunas have higher levels of EMFs, which is, it's like a teeter-totter. Well, wait a minute. Infrared saunas are really good for me, but they produce some EMFs and that's bad for me. So should I do a sauna or should I not do a sauna? Right? Well, doing the sauna is more important and you're reducing EMFs wherever you can in your life, but we're going to get some exposures. I mean, I was sitting with a friend yesterday, and in her kitchen, there was the coffee pot with, it's a remote control coffee pot, and there was Alexa, and she talked to Alaska to turn the music down. And there was like 2 or 3 other things in the kitchen that are emitting EMFs all over the place, you know? And so you reduce wherever you can. So using a sauna, do not stop from using a sauna because they emit EMFs. Yes, ideally you don't want EMFs. So the ones we're recommending now are very, very low in EMFs. And the wood is highest quality wood that doesn't emit oils that can be toxic to some people. I really like it a lot. So, and regarding detoxing, yes, of course, you will detox out toxins as you sweat. I think a sauna is an extremely useful tool to help flush out the residue that's been accumulating in the last 20, 30, 40 years in your body. You know, a year to 2 years of doing saunas 2-3 times a week, sensibly, you know, and just baby stepping it up little at a time. I mean, I'm at the stage, well, now, because we're in Costa Rica, I don't have my sauna with me, but when I had my sauna back in Encinitas, I was at the stage where I was taking quite a bit of niacin to cause a flush. And I timed it so that I would start itching and I'd look, oh, my skin's all red. It's called the Niacin Flush. And I time it so I get the niacin flush just as I go in the hot sauna. So I'm opening up my blood vessels, vasodilation. Now I'm in the hot sauna and I'm sweating, flushing out more, right? But you don't do that for the first 6 months of using a sauna. You see Michelle's face. She's like, "Ugh, I'm not sure I do that," right? So
I've done it, and it was not a pretty picture. It made me vomit. Yeah, so you've got to ease into it, and you've got to take a super low dose, but make sure that you've worked up. Like start with 5 minutes, go to 10. Warm up with the sauna. Make sure that you're really sweating. Like if you're super toxic and you go right to a Niacin Flush, you are going to be using Dr. Tom's name as a curse word. So be careful.
We don't want that. We do not.
We don't want that at all. We do not want that. So just listen to him. It's an amazing thing and can be so effective, and it can lower histamine response and amazingly in people. That niacin, there's so many health benefits. Ease in, please ease into it.
Baby steps. So we'll put the link to the sauna here tonight. And you know, this thing about saunas, the first time I started doing saunas was 1972, and I was at University of Michigan, and our friends lived in an apartment complex that had a sauna in the basement of the complex. So we'd go down there and use the sauna. But what I've learned over the years of the benefits, they're just tremendous. There was a doctor in Southern California came up with a protocol in the late 60s, I think it was, maybe early 70s. And his protocol was really effective with drug addicts and alcoholics to detox them. And it was such a successful protocol. The Church of Scientology picked up on his protocol. They tweaked it a little bit, and they market it as one of their courses, and they charge thousands and thousands of dollars for it. But it's the same one that you can download the paper and read about how to do it. But there is something to be said for having a monitor with you, because when you do this protocol, and I did this protocol on my own, in my practice in Chicago, I would work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. So I thought, oh, well, I'll do the sauna on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And the protocol is 8 hours a day. And with the true protocol, it's 6 days a week. And it's 30 minutes in the sauna, 15 minutes walking around a track, 15 minutes rest, drink water, eat a little bit, 30, 15, 15, 30, 15, 15, 8 hours a day. And people that were alcoholics and hadn't had a drink in 2 years reeked of alcohol, reeked. People who took LSD back in the 60s, now we're in the 80s and 90s, they had mini trips again. That the residue being pulled out of your body If you're too aggressive, will sometimes give you some minor, recurrent effects. So I did this, and I did it for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days. And my staff, I asked my staff a question. They said, "Oh, Dr. O'Brien, we just answered that a minute ago. You asked that a minute." No, I didn't. And it would happen again. "Oh, you asked us that 10 minutes ago." No, I didn't. And then I did it once with my wife, and she looked at me and said, "Stop the sauna. Stop now." Okay. And I realized I was losing my memory. I was flushing and detoxing too quickly. So you've got to respect this process, right? And I don't recommend anyone does the 8-hour-a-day thing unless you have a monitor, actually. So there's value to that whole concept of what the Scientologists are doing with that course. There's value to the concept. If you find a doctor or a holistic practice that does that type of thing, great.
And you got the time. How many of us can spend 8 hours a day in sauna?
Right.
Not me.
Right.
But yeah, it could be really great in like those cases of people that were in the World Trade Center when it crashed, right? And they were so toxic. Sometimes you have to do heroic things in that moment. Or if they were, being sent to a rehab facility, right? That's 8 hours a day. You have to do that. I think sometimes we feel overwhelmed. And well, if I can't do 8 hours a day, I'm not going to do any. If you can do 10 minutes, right? And we luckily have on the website now some more affordable saunas. And I have to say that, I have the wooden sauna and I love it. And I got it big enough so that I could lay down in there. But if this is what you can afford, there's something really nice about having your head out and you can just sip on water there. There's these little places where you can, get your arms out. You can watch, I don't know, a TV show or something to distract yourself. But if this is all you can afford, just kind of like when people say, what's the best juicer? The juicer that you use. What's the best sauna? The one that you're going to use, right? And the one that you can afford. So we have 2 saunas, and I'm sure the team will put both the links. It looks like this has some more. And if this is in your budget, start here, right? And as you can save up to the more expensive one, that's the wooden one that's on the website is more of the Cadillac, Lexus, the Bentley saunas.
Yeah, it's
a little bit pricier, but really nice sauna. And I love all the benefits of the low EMF.
It's the best one that we've found to date. Very sensitive to being balanced with low EMFs. I like it a lot. I wish I had it here in Costa Rica, but everything's a little more expensive here. Yesterday I bought a pulse monitor, and because mine is in storage in Italy, because when we came here, we came with 1 suitcase. It's like, whoa, and that was a year and a half ago. So I said, you know what? I need a pulse monitor. I need to be monitoring my pulse when I'm exercising. And so I went to buy a pulse monitor, just a basic little wristwatch pulse monitor with an alarm on it. The company is Polar. It's a really good company, and we've recommended them for years. A basic one, it was $380. I'm like, what? I mean, everything's more expensive here because it's imported, right? And there's somewhere between a 50 to 100% tax, import tax, on many things that come in. But I just bit the bullet and said, I need it. I need it because I know I need to support my exercising, and I'm worth it. And so I did it. But I'd love to have my sauna here, but that's not going to happen. Not anytime soon.
They're really hard to travel with, but this one that's on the website that's been recently added, they're portable. You can travel with it. So
good point.
Yeah, that's really nice. But yeah, I have the one that you can't travel with either. There's no way that's making it on an airplane.
Right.
Okay. So someone asked, I just had a pacemaker inserted. My question is, will wearing the Harmony pendant affect its function? I would contact Harmony Pendant or look on their website under FAQs.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it would, but I would double check with the company.
Yeah, there is nothing in the Harmony Pendant that is emitting wavelengths. It's balancing what's around it. So I can't imagine it would be a problem, but I agree with Michelle in that unusual situation. Really good question. In that situation, go right to the company and the customer service online. Hi, how can we help? And just type it in there and see what kind of an answer you get.
Because you won't have been the first person that will have asked them. Trust me. That's a common question. Okay, so Quincy asked, can you suggest a clean sunscreen for our family? We have 4 kids, the youngest is 4. I know what we put on our skin is important. I love environmental working group, Skin Deep.
Exactly.
Are you familiar with the site? Yeah. They have, you come here to Sun and you want to go down here. There's baby sunscreen, there's recreational, there's daily use, but you can type any brand and they're going to give it a rating. So I can put this link in the site. And so you want, you want it to be 1 is ideal. That's the lowest. I don't know if these are maybe considered 0 because I'm not seeing a number. I would have to read into that a little bit more, but it looks like they're in order. So if we go here to 59, these are super toxic. You do not want these. 8, 9 for a sunscreen is just going to be loaded with chemicals. So you can either go through the first couple of pages and pick one that's a 0 or 1, or you can type in and search for the sunscreen you're using. I have the app on my phone and I've pulled it up when I've been in the store shopping for sunscreen before to make sure that it has a really low number. Thank you,
that's great. I saw that someone asked the question, do you need to refrigerate E3 or wheat rescue? The concept of refrigeration is if probiotics, which are in E3, get above 120 degrees, then they start to die off. And there's no harm to the product, it's just the probiotics won't be as effective. That's the theory behind why E3 is sent with refrigeration during the summer months. However, there's lots of evidence that probiotics never make it to the large intestine, that they're killed in the stomach by hydrochloric acid. And well, wait a minute, but probiotics work, but you kill them. Yeah, but you've got the DNA of the bacteria that is still there, and it continues down with the food into the intestines, and it's called horizontal gene transfer, that the genes from the probiotics that you took transfer into the bacteria living in your gut. And they kind of like infiltrate. And that's a current theory as to why when you take probiotics, they work so well. But they're killed in the stomach. So how can they work? That's been a confusing thing until technology identified horizontal gene transfer, HGT. Now we know how the probiotics work. That's why we encourage using spores. Megaspore as an example, and we'll put the link in here for that. The spores don't get killed by the stomach acid. The spores get activated by stomach acid. So when you take the spore therapy, you see that the microbiome increases within a month of many different beneficial bacteria, that the spores feed the beneficial bacteria. The result is the diversity comes up with spore probiotic therapy versus bacteria probiotic therapy. Nothing wrong with bacteria probiotic therapy, works really well. Lots of studies show. Now we understand it's HGT, horizontal gene transfer, by which it occurs. as opposed to, well, I take lactobacillus and then I have more lactobacillus in my gut. No, it doesn't work like that. You take lactobacillus, it's killed in the stomach. But the DNA, the genes of that lactobacillus kind of infiltrate, not kind of, they infiltrate the bacteria in your gut, so you get more lactobacillus.
Nice.
So back to the question. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there. The question is about refrigeration, and is it necessary? And the answer is no, it's not really necessary, because the bacteria get killed off anyway in the stomach, and the genes are still there, so you're going to get the benefits of taking it.
I keep my large bottle in the fridge, and then I have a smaller bottle that I refill that I keep in my purse, but it's not necessary. Eileen asks, or she says, I'm taking 100 milligrams of magnesium glycinate before bed to help sleep. I was told to take 500 milligrams twice per day. Seems like a lot. How much magnesium glycinate is too much? When you get diarrhea. Magnesium is that amazing supplement that tells your body how much you need. So I recommend that people titrate up. It's great to take before sleep because it does really help with relaxation, calm, but it can be taken multiple times a day. If you take it in the morning and you feel like kind of tired and too calm, then take it in the evening and just keep titrating up so you get loose stool in the morning and then back down by 1 cap, and that's your sweet spot. If you get loose stool somewhere down the road, back down a cap. But I've had people have to take 4 tablespoons of magnesium citrate before that happens. They're so deficient because it's definitively, magnesium is used for 300 enzymatic pathways in the body, but I've heard rumblings that it's up to 600. And when we eat sugar or we have any stress on the body, it just consumes our magnesium. So it's one of those supplements that it seems like the vast majority of people are deficient in.
You know, a couple of pearls about that. One of the foods with the highest concentration of magnesium is chocolate. And so people see that smile? That's what you get. People who crave chocolate may have a magnesium insufficiency as a component of why they really want chocolate. Nothing wrong with having a little chocolate every day. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. We recommend it. Dark chocolate. Don't let it touch your teeth. Just let it dissolve in your mouth. And so a little square of the very best chocolate you can find is often all you need, because it takes a few minutes to melt in your mouth, and the taste is saturating your brain with chocolate. Oh, chocolate's here. And so you start making the endorphins, the enkephalins, that are 200 times more powerful than morphine with 1 square of chocolate. And if you want another square, have another square. But that's rare. Most people don't need or want another square. That's how you have chocolate every day and don't gain weight or throw your blood sugar off. Don't let it touch your teeth. The other thing is that there was a paper written a number of years ago, back in the 90s, I think, that looked at the true Paleolithic diet. Not what we call today a paleo diet, but what did our ancestors really eat? And in terms of the amount of minerals they got in their diet. And the ratio of magnesium to calcium in the true Paleolithic diet was 4 to 1. 4 times more magnesium than calcium. Today, in our culture, it's completely reversed. Now it's somewhere between 4 to 6 to 1 calcium to magnesium, that we get so much calcium because milk builds bodies, strong bodies 12 ways, that we all grew up with that nonsense that we were taught. And so we think we have to have dairy, we have to have a couple of glasses of milk every day to build our bones. No. When you look at the science in the Far East, Japan and China, it was rare that they had osteoporosis. Rare, until the Western diet came over and they started doing dairy and sugar. But then osteoporosis just took off. So the human body functions better with higher levels of magnesium-rich foods. And so most of us just don't get enough magnesium. And so a supplemented magnesium is often beneficial.
Thank you for that additional info. Do I have time for one more?
Oh, yes, yes. It's like,
Okay.
It goes so fast. It goes so fast.
I know, it really does. This is from Maria. Hi, Maria. I understand the importance of getting at least 8 hours of sleep every night for the body to heal. Is going to bed before 10 p.m. non-negotiable in order to reverse certain medical conditions? For decades, I've been going to bed after midnight, but I do get 8 hours of sleep most nights.
Well, that's a really good geek question that could be a great conversation over a bottle of wine, you know, because the pros and cons both ways. But I think my question would be, what are you doing between 9 o'clock and midnight? You know, if you're watching the news and watching television, you're assaulting your brain pretty aggressively, and that can affect the quality of your sleep quite profoundly. And we're designed to, and it sounds geeky, you know, but live with nature. Mean when the sun's going down, the wavelengths of light going through our eyes back into the brain says, oh, sunset has just occurred. It's going to get dark soon. Time to make some melatonin. And melatonin is made by the pineal gland. It's activated by the light going through the eye, that the sun's going down, comes through the eye to the pineal, stimulates melatonin production. Melatonin goes to your liver and says, because your liver doesn't have eyes outside your body, it says, okay, liver, time to go to sleep. Okay, kidneys, night, night, kidneys. Night, night, ovaries, night, night, testes. Time to go to sleep now. Night, night, right? And so it just calms the body down. But if you're watching television, if you're watching news and creating anxiety and all that, it's going to affect the quality of your sleep. Now, if you're reading by a soft light after 9 o'clock and you're just immersed in a book and you go to bed at midnight and you still get 10 hours of sleep, you have to have a completely darkened room so that there's no light at all. But then when you wake up in the morning in a completely darkened room, it's not stimulating your brain to start making the hormones that get produced as light's coming up. So if you're going down around 7 or 8, when the light's going down in the wintertime, at 9 or later, you know, if the light's going down in the summertime, and you're waking up as the light's coming up in the morning, then your hormones are in balance with your body and with the environment. But if you're sleeping in a room darkened room, and we think room darkening shades are really important, no light at night when you're sleeping to go through your eyelid because it'll affect the quality of your sleep and all that. But back when I was in my education, I'm just remembering now, I'm smiling, I forgot all about it. I had this night, this alarm that you'd set it, and in the morning, there was a bowl, and it was a light. And the light would be very light, but over 15 to 30 minutes, it would get a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. And then at 30 minutes, there'd be a ding, ding, really soft ding, right? So the light, as it started to come up, would go through my closed eyelid, sending a message to the pineal, okay, time to start making testosterone now. So for a male, you know, men are supposed to wake up with an erection because testosterone is being produced at that time. Why? Because testosterone gets you up and going to go find meat, to go find food for the family. That's testosterone is supposed to be highest in the morning. And that's why, right? But that doesn't happen if you're in sleeping in a room with room darkening shades. You don't get all of that messaging to wake up, and you don't get the messaging to go to sleep at night. So that's why I said, oh, this is really a great question to geek out on over a bottle of wine, because there's so many components to answering that question.
True. Those hours before midnight are worth twice as much as the hours after midnight, from what I've read and researched. So if you sleep from 10 to midnight, you're getting 4 hours compared to like midnight to 4.
Good point. Well, you know, we've gone 10 minutes over, and you know, we could just keep going. I mean, it's just so much fun to do this, Michelle. It's like our dance together every month. Thank you so much.
I enjoy it.
Yes, as do I. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful week. Happy Memorial Day to you. Oh, one thing. Memorial Day is a day to express gratitude for those who have given their lives for us to protect our country. And we think it's a party day or a vacation day, or, you know, however we've looked at it, but take a moment and just think about perhaps your father, your uncles, your aunts who have served in armed forces and dedicated a number of years of their lives to making sure that we could live in the United States and live safely. So, and for those overseas, this day is a holiday in the US, but perhaps it'd be nice to just take a moment and think of your family and your armed forces that the family may have served in, and give a moment's grace and gratitude. Thank you all, everyone, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.